Hi, welcome back to this series about the 10-day Vipassana course taught by S.N. Goenka. The last video in the series was about the first 3 courses that I took, and this video is all about the 4th course. I'm doing this because the experience I had during my 4th course was so radically different than the first 3, and actually I shouldn't have gone. At least I shouldn't have gone at the time that I did. I really wasn't in the right mental state to take that on. And I'm doing this video just to give you an example of how sometimes it's really not a good idea to go. So I always encourage people to make sure that if they are going to do the course, that they're in the right mental state to take that on. In hindsight, I should not have signed up for the 4th course at the time that I did. And that was my first mistake. My second mistake was not withdrawing my registration as the start of the course approached, because I could tell that I wasn't really in the right frame of mind. But I went anyway, and I had a horrible time, and I'm not sure that it did me any good. Back at that time when I did take the 4th course, I had this idea in my head that I was going to write a short book about my Vipassana experiences. And you're not supposed to bring any reading or writing materials with you to the course, but I wanted to capture my observations, like day to day to day to day on the course. So what I decided to do was, before I went there to start the course, I also booked a hotel room for the 2 nights immediately following the course, so that as soon as the course was over, I could go right to that hotel, just like hunker down in that hotel room and just write everything down while all the details were fresh in my mind. And I did that, but I ultimately decided not to write the book, but I have the things that I wrote. So in this video, I'm just going to read to you what I wrote. So this is like a little journal of what my experience was like during the course, that dreaded 4th course. And, you know, in addition to showing you an example of how sometimes you should not take the course, I'm also thinking that this might be helpful for you to see, just to hear some daily observations. So maybe you get a better sense of what the environment is like, or what kind of experience you might have if you encounter some mental challenges like I did. So I'm going to just look over here at my laptop and read to you directly from my writings, and then at the end I'll talk directly to you again just to wrap it up. Okay, so here we go. This course was very different from the first 3 that I did. It was not full, so there were not as many people. The men's tents had not been put up yet, so there were fewer men there too. It made for a quieter meditation hall. I was grateful that there wasn't so much squirming around during the first few days. It was quieter than usual, which was nice. It was my first time sitting in the front row, and I liked it because I was able to stretch my legs all the way out in front of me if I wanted to. My bedroom window looked out on the pagoda and the fire road. From my room, I could see up into the woods in the women's walking area and watch the women walking around in there or sitting on the little benches or logs. It was nice entertainment. The window screen had fallen out onto the ground below, so if I left the window open on warm days, wasps and stink bugs might get inside because I saw them flying around out there. I brought a heating pad for the first time, and I'm really glad I did. It was nice to have that comfort and warmth in my bed, especially on chilly days and nights. I wish I had thought of that for the earlier courses. I brought extra pillowcases so I could use the extra pillows from the supply closet. On past courses, I'd get an extra blanket and fold it up and put it under my pillow for extra support. I realize now it's better to just bring extra pillowcases and snatch some extra pillows as soon as you get there before they're all gone. It doesn't hurt to give you more tips, right? There's a whole other video in the series just giving you advice like this, but I'm just reading you what I wrote. So here we go. Moving on. I shouldn't have taken this course. I went into it with a somewhat negative attitude, or maybe not negative, but definitely apathetic. Usually, I'm really excited about the course, and I'm eager to put myself to work. This time, though, when I signed up for the course, I wasn't excited about it or looking forward to it at all. I only signed up for it because it's good for me, and I wanted to continue the progress from the prior 3 years. In fact, when I signed up for it, I kind of felt like a kid being told to eat their Brussels sprouts. You don't want to do it, but you make yourself do it because it's good for you. On day 1 of the course, I was already thinking about leaving, and I had halfway talked myself into actually doing that. In all the past courses, my thoughts about leaving early didn't happen until at least a few days in, and those thoughts never lasted very long. But this time, on day 1, I spent much of the meditation time just thinking about what I would actually do if I did leave. I would not go back to work early, that's for sure. I'd want to use my vacation time to do something that I enjoyed. Option 1, go to Rhinebeck and explore the town and the surrounding towns to get a sense of where I might want to live when I get my dream job at the Omega Institute. By the way, I never got a job at the Omega Institute. I wanted to, but I ended up not doing that. Option 2, stay in a local motel and just hang out and explore the local area. Option 3, drive straight to the Albany, New York airport and fly to Denver to visit my sister and her family. That was my favorite option. I longed to see my sister. I wanted the comfort and companionship of being with her and her family. I was depressed and sad on day 1, and I cried a lot in the privacy of my bedroom. I was already feeling sad and blue before I left home to take the course, which was why it all got worse when I actually started the course and realized I was stuck there for a grueling 10 days. A hot shower and a brief walk outside in the cool air made me feel slightly better, but not very much better. I was lamenting the sad state of my life. A job that I hate, coworkers I don't like, a boss and an employer that I don't like, no more real friends in my life anymore, living at my parents' house, no more social activities. I had become overweight and was getting uglier the more I let myself go, and I was worried about my health. Day 2. Day 2 was a little better than day 1. On the evening of day 1, I had decided to stay to complete the course when Goenka talked about weak-minded people leaving the course early. It encouraged me a little when he talked about why I should stay. It's kind of funny that people take the course and practice Vipassana to dissolve the ego, but part of my decision to stay was because of my ego. I didn't want to look like a failure to the new students, and I didn't want it on my Vipassana record, and I didn't want that failure to be recorded and made public in my Vipassana-themed memoir that I was thinking about writing. What helped me get through the night of day 1 and all of day 2 was thinking about how great it would be to get breakfast on the diner on day 11 and eat those pancakes, sausage and eggs, and hash browns that I love. I also thought about how I had survived bad days on the course in the past, so I could do it again. It certainly wasn't going to kill me or hurt me physically, so all I had to do was tough it out. But still, I was not taking this course seriously. I was not meditating. I was doing some Anapana meditation, but mostly spent the time thinking about other things. I was enjoying not going to work at my shitty job. I was just sitting there on the meditation cushion, biding my time, taking lots of naps, which is easy to do when you're depressed. At that point on day 2, I was not convinced that I'd end up staying for the whole course though. I did really want to see my sister. I even spent some of the meditation time thinking about maybe canceling the week-long workshop in October at the Omega Institute that I had registered for, and instead going to surprise my sister and her family in Denver, even though they're coming here to visit in July. So you see where we are here? I show up immediately on day 1. I don't want to be there. I'm thinking of leaving. I'm depressed. I'm crying. I'm not even meditating. Day 1, day 2, it's not a good situation. Day 3. Day 3 was better than day 2 in terms of my mood. I still wasn't meditating at all, but I kept myself entertained with fantasies about quitting my horrible job and going to work at Omega. My posture in the group meditations became more comfortable and less torturous, so that was good. I actively appreciated that. So far at this point, the weather was rainy every day, but the rain suited my dismal mood, and I always like the sound of the rain. It soothes and relaxes me, and it comforts me. On this day, even though I wasn't feeling depressed anymore, and I wasn't feeling sad most of the time, I still wasn't being Vipassana-like. There's a woman who left her water bottle at my favorite place to sit in the dining hall, which is against the wall next to the door. She must have left it there after breakfast because I waited outside the dining hall at lunch so that I would be one of the first people let into the dining hall to claim a seat. I was the first person in the room, and there was her pink water bottle sitting in the spot that I wanted. I was a bit irritated by that, but I took a different seat, and it turns out I liked that seat better. After that woman with the pink water bottle was finished with lunch, I saw her take a banana back to her room. She's not supposed to do that. I got angry at seeing her break the rules. I didn't even care that I wasn't practicing being equanimous, like I was supposed to be doing. So that's part of the course. You're supposed to practice equanimity. And in this moment, I wasn't, and I didn't care. Now on to day 4. Day 4 was a long one. That's Vipassana day, as I call it. That's the day that Vipassana instruction begins. The first 3 days are just Anapana meditation. The afternoon schedule is different on day 4. You have to sit for an hour as usual, then a 5-minute break, and then you sit again for 2 hours. During that time, Vipassana is taught, and so begins sittings of strong determination, which means you're not supposed to move your body at all if you can help it. That can be very uncomfortable because it's almost 3 hours of sitting. The depression and sadness seem to have completely gone away at that point. I started to feel a little positive and excited that the next day would be day 5, the halfway point of the course. If I could make it through the first half, maybe I could make it all the way through the second half. But still, I did almost no meditation on day 4. I spent a lot of time imagining different ways that I might go to Colorado to surprise my sister and her family. There were chocolate chip cookies for dessert at lunch that day. Dessert is served every 2 or 3 days during the course. Those cookies were very good. All natural and healthy ingredients. The crumbs of those cookies looked like crumbs from a granola bar. The cookie was very chocolatey. It tasted like brownie batter, and it made me want to lick the spoon like I do when I make brownies. The teacher's discourse on day 4 is very good. I always enjoy it a lot. It's very interesting, and I think it is very rewarding for the new students. Goenka starts to explain how the technique works on a practical level and how the different parts of the mind work and how they work with the bodily sensations. That night around 11:15, I was woken from a deep sleep by a scary sound. I was dreaming at the time, so I was ripped out of my dream. It was kind of like a loud moan or howl or wail. I didn't know if it was an animal in the woods or a woman in the residence, maybe having a dream and vocalizing it, or if it was a prankster outside, like a kid from the local town. I said that because during one of the first courses, maybe it was my very first course, there were some kids from the town that would drive by the meditation center at night, just laying on their car horn, and you could hear them like hanging out the windows and like laughing because they knew it was a silent retreat and they were there to like disturb the peace. And I always thought that was kind of funny, but that's why I mentioned this here. Where do we go? Where do we leave off? Okay, it freaked me out and made me feel scared. It kind of had the sound of a siren on a fire truck. It lasted about a minute and petered out at the end with a slow-pitched moan. I've never heard such a sound before. Maybe it sounded like a person trying to imitate a fire siren. It made my heart pound to be ripped out of a dream to that awful sound, and it took a while to settle down and get back to sleep. Day 5, halfway. Day 5, I was happy to have reached the halfway point. I saved a bug's life that day. I think it was a stink bug, and it had come into my room through the open window that I'd left open. No screen, remember? The students take a vow not to kill anything during the course, and I wouldn't have killed it anyway. I put it in my sun hat, covered the hole with the laminated page of instructions for how to clean your room at the end of the course to prepare it for the next student, carried the hat outside, and let the bug go. It was not exciting at all, really, but it was the most exciting part of the day. This is what it's like there. I mean, you're just eating, sleeping, meditating, and you can like walk around and stuff. So the days are long. There's not much going on. Saving a bug or moving a bug from my room to the outside really was the most exciting thing that happened that whole day. So if you're going to take the course, be prepared for that kind of environment. Okay, back to the notes here. Where are we? If I made any attempts at meditating that day, they were surely interrupted frequently by my own annoyance at the woman sitting behind me in the meditation hall. She'd caught a cold and it was getting worse. I called her the sniffle monster because she sniffled a lot. She sniffled through the entire meditation sitting every 15 to 20 seconds. I counted. She has tissues, but she did not use them to blow her nose. She used the tissue to dab at the snot, but continued to sniffle. Once in a while, she would sneeze and say, "Excuse me," out loud. Maybe she was trying to be polite, but I think it's rude to constantly sniffle like that and not blow your nose. See how irritated I was? If you blow your nose, you won't have to sniffle as much. Every sniffle is a distraction, and so is any word spoken out loud, and you're not supposed to communicate verbally with anyone during the meditations. I was so irritated. Again, I was supposed to be equanimous, but I wasn't even trying. There were some moments when I tried and was successful, but most of the time I just gave in to my annoyance. Day 5 sucked. My head wasn't in the game, I knew it, and I didn't care. Day 6. Day 6 was worse than the last few days were. I woke up feeling like I did on day 2, depressed and sad. The night before, I had dreams that made me feel bad about myself, especially the dream I was having right before I woke up. I started falling into my old habit of using my free time to think about the people I don't like and to criticize them mentally. This is something I used to do a lot before I started practicing Vipassana a few years ago. I would imagine all kinds of scenarios that haven't really happened, or these people I don't like are mean to me. Why do I do that? I was also thinking that day about the sad state of my life again. I have realized that the longer I go without socializing with people, the more socially awkward I become. I do not like this. I decided that I will indeed cancel the October workshop at Omega, and instead I will go to Colorado to surprise my sister and her family. And actually here, I'm going to skip this next bit because it has no bearing on anything. It's just like a detailed plan about how I would surprise my sister in Colorado. That's it. So I'm going to skip that part. Day 6 of the course was also the 6th consecutive day of rain, but I liked it because, again, the weather matched my mood. I started to think about doing a 3-day course next year instead of a 10-day course, since this one was such a disaster. Or maybe I should skip a year. Or maybe I should simply give service instead of sitting the course. I spent my time in the dining hall that day, savoring every bit of enjoyment and entertainment I could glean. For example, I liked my new spot in the dining hall, against the wall under the hallway ramp in the front of the building. Through the window, I could see the legs of the servers walking by. The curtain was closed, but the window was open, so when the breeze comes by strong enough, it moves the curtain enough so that you can catch a glimpse outside and see the pink blossoms on the tree out there. I liked that I only had to sit next to one person. It was always the woman who had the bedroom next to mine, and she's a quiet eater, which is nice. Okay, so this is an example of the lengths you go to get some entertainment, because you're just sitting there. You can't talk to anyone. You can't do anything. You're just eating, and it's just you and your own thoughts. So I was entertaining myself by catching little glimpses through the window as the breeze blew the curtain open. Like, it's long, slow days. Just be prepared for that. That morning, I skipped breakfast because I was too depressed to get out of bed. I didn't want to move or even see other people. About halfway through the day, I started to feel a little better. Also, the sun came out in the afternoon, and I went outside to walk to and from the meditation hall instead of walking there through the hallways. It was a real pick-me-up to be in the fresh air and feel the sun on my skin. But I still didn't meditate. I spent a lot of the meditation time designing my dream house in my head. I spent a lot of time on the kitchen. I think by the time I ended that course, I had designed maybe every detail of that house. And maybe if I'm lucky one day, I'll get to build that dream house. That would be really neat. Day seven. Finally, I woke up and recalled some positive dreams for a change. Dreams that made me feel good about myself instead of feeling bad about myself. One was a sex dream. Sorry, guys. A sex dream with the actor Ty Burrell, who plays Phil Dunphy on Modern Family. There really wasn't any sexually explicit stuff in the dream, but sex was happening between us. The dream was just a close-up of his handsome face. I was on top looking down at him. So he was laying on his back and we were making love. He had his eyes closed and he was smiling, occasionally turning his head from one side to the other. He was experiencing a lot of pleasure and he was saying beautiful things to me. Things about how wonderful I am, how amazing I am, how much he loves me, and things like that. It made me feel very special. Of all the men in the world who could have been in this dream, why Ty Burrell? Maybe it's because his character on Modern Family has always been my favorite because he reminds me of myself. So maybe he's a representation in my dream of myself. Maybe he represents a part of me who loves myself and believes in myself. I can't ever know for sure, but maybe that's why it was him. Or maybe it's just because I think he's handsome and I like his voice and his face so much. In any case, it was really great to wake up with a positive dream memory. And it didn't rain that day either. It was the first hot afternoon of the course. I went for a walk after lunch, but it was too hot for me, so I sat in the shade and watched the women and listened to the birds and enjoyed the smells and the feeling of a very light breeze on my skin. I felt grateful that that day I did not have one moment of depression or sadness. So you see, guys, I didn't have a semi-good day until day 7. And when you're not doing anything all day, 6 days feels like way longer than 6 days. So it's like it's a very different kind of mental anguish. When you if you're feeling that depressed and you're in your home, you can distract yourself with all kinds of things. Like you can watch TV or do whatever. There's like a million things you can do. But in this kind of a situation, it's just you and your thoughts and you cannot escape them. So it's hard to deal with. Day 8. I was proud of myself for not leaving early, but not proud of my lack of effort. I was glad, though, that I was much closer to the end of the course than I was to the horrendous first couple days. It was mac and cheese day. It's all I ate for lunch that day. Actually, it's penne, not macaroni, but who cares? It was very good. The curtain by my seat was pulled open a little bit so I could look at the pink blossoms on the tree outside while I ate, and there was a little breeze, which was nice. Again, this is how you entertain yourself. You just have to savor your observations. As usual during this course, I didn't give much effort to the meditation. Instead, I spent the time thinking about how I would pack up my stuff and clean my room. I mean, step by step, in what order, and when I would do it, meaning day 10 versus day 11. I mean, that's what I was thinking about while I was supposed to be meditating. During one of the breaks, I even got a start unpacking by separating all my stuff into piles. It made me feel good to have something to actually do and to mentally prepare myself for the future when I got to actually leave and go home. During one of the evening meditation sessions, somebody was crying in the meditation hall. It's not unusual. I couldn't tell if it was a man or woman. I thought a lot about sandwiches during that hour. That night, I had a hard time falling asleep because my mind was chattering away. I figured out that I could immediately slow that chatter down if I slowly and rhythmically counted down in my mind from 100 down to 1. Day 9 felt like Christmas Eve. I went for a walk at 5:50 a.m. for about 15 minutes. It was nice to be out in the morning dew and smell the leaves on the ground in the woods. At the top of the hill in the woods, I saw an orange lizard about 2.5 inches long. It looked very soft. In the meditation hall, the girl to my left started turning into the sniffle monster. I guess the woman behind me passed it along because now she was nice and quiet. To help myself not react to the sniffling, I did that countdown from 100 down to 1, like I had done the night before to help me fall asleep. It did help a lot. At lunch, they served apple crisp for dessert with whipped cream. I saw a woman put a big spoonful of it on top of her salad. Very strange. I started packing to pass the time during the breaks. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention this earlier, but it should come as no surprise that throughout this entire course, whenever we could choose where we meditated, which means either in the meditation hall or your cell or your room, I chose my room and I did not meditate. Day 10, the last full day. That morning we received metta meditation instruction, and then noble silence ended. A woman cried at the end of the metta meditation instruction when Goenka and his wife were singing. Lunch is 2 hours on day 10. We had veggie burgers, which were very good, and the usual salad, and chocolate chip cookies again, but they were larger this time. I mean, you get so bored that this is the most interesting stuff that happens in your day. That's why I wrote about these lame things. There was lots of chatter all day between the students, as usual, and the men and women could mingle. I did not join them, though. Before you leave the course, you're supposed to clean your room according to the instructions they give you to help get the room ready for the next student. Usually I clean my room on the morning of day 11, but this time I did as much of it as possible on day 10 so that I could leave as early as possible on day 11 and get the hell out of there. It made me feel good to get ready to leave. While I was doing that, I looked out of my bedroom window and I saw the woman out there who had the room next to mine. She was taking pictures of the pagoda with her cell phone. She had her cell phone with her during the entire course. You're not supposed to do that. At this point, I didn't write it down, but I was so mad. But really, it just shows my poor frame of mind, because you're supposed to be equanimous, and I wasn't trying to do that. And it makes no difference to me if somebody else broke that rule, like someone else had their cell phone. I hadn't known until I saw her through the window, and it had no effect on me, so I shouldn't have cared, but I was so angry in that moment. Toward the end of the day, I was walking by a group of women who were chatting in the hallway, and I heard one of them say the word depressed. As I walked by, I looked at them and said, "Did someone say depressed?" And we all laughed. So those are the end of my notes. What happened on day 11 was, I think there's a meditation in the morning, and then you clean up and you leave. You get your stuff back from them and you go. So I drove to the diner nearby that I like to go to, and I got to have that breakfast that I had been dreaming about or thinking about days before during the meditation. And then I went to the hotel where I had 2 nights reserved, and that's where I just threw down all these observations. That's how I was able to preserve all those weird, boring details. So obviously you can see exactly why I shouldn't have gone, and it would have been much better if I had withdrawn my registration, not gone, and instead given my spot to somebody on the waiting list, somebody else who would do the work and would receive benefits. After this course was over, I experienced no positive benefits from it. I didn't make any changes to my personality because I didn't do the work. You can't have one without the other. So I don't know if it was right for me to stay the whole time or not. I could have left early if I wanted to. But in any case, that's what happened. So I hope that this has been helpful for you, to show you an example of a bad frame of mind that's not conducive to a productive course. And also another note about that, I was just dealing with depression, but there are many other psychiatric conditions that people are living with and dealing with that are really serious. So if you have, first of all, I talk a lot more about this in detail on, I think it's the first video in this series called How to Prepare Mentally, and it's the first topic in that video. So I read out loud from their website, their policy on this, and their guidance. But basically, if you're living with something more serious than what I had, like something in the vein of a schizophrenia or dissociative identity disorder or anything that's giving you hallucinations, definitely I would say don't go. We only get one mind in this life. We should be careful with it, and you don't want to put yourself in a situation where you're going to make things worse or even potentially become a danger to yourself or others. And there's no medical staff there, there's no psychiatric staff there. It's just you and your thoughts, and as you can see, it can get pretty weird. And the notes that I read here, because I wasn't meditating, I wasn't really having really trippy experiences, and that one dream that I described is pretty tame. But on the other courses, when I did do the work and I was meditating, I was having all kinds of interesting experiences, including hallucinations, which is normal for this work, nightmares. I mean, if you have a psychiatric condition that isn't a good match for this work, and you're doing the meditation work, you could get yourself into some scary situations. So just be careful with your decision. And also, I just want to say, if this is the only video that you've watched so far in this series, please don't let this scare you off from taking the course. I recommend you go back to the prior video in this series where I describe my experience on the first 3 courses that I took and all the wonderful benefits that I got as a result. That's a lot more positive and encouraging than this video is. So that's the end of the video. Thank you so much for watching. I'm curious to know if there's anyone watching who had a similar experience where you took the course when maybe you shouldn't have. I want to know what that was like for you. So if you feel comfortable sharing, please leave a comment below. And I'm also envisioning the comment section as a place where maybe we could all help each other out. It could be maybe a community space as long as everyone's nice. Don't say anything hurtful about other people, but if you have something constructive and helpful to share with the other people who are watching this video, please contribute. I'd love to hear what you have to say. And if you are going to take your first course, then good luck to you. I wish you all the success. I hope it goes really well. And again, come back to this video or any other video in the series and let me know how it went in the comments. Thank you.